Welcome back, and thank you for joining another rendition of Elm Elaborates. You're here on episode 5, Funding the Machine. Today, I'm here with a special guest, my right-hand man, Kyle.
So my name is Kyle Quittschreiber, and I started working for Nomad Capital originally in December of 2022. I started as kind of a fill-in role, really like an admin assistant for a while. Worked underneath Nomad's financial controller, Drew Lewis, and it was about a year or so later that Ryan took me from the Nomad team and sort of stuck me in a role with Elm's finances and stuff. So, yeah,
That's it, and we are happy to have you. I mean, Kyle is, I would say, one of the most pivotal. He's in one of the most pivotal spots. Like, he is dealing with money constantly. He is our bank, really. He's the guy that goes to the bank and gets our money for us. So we'll just talk about a little about what I do on the project management side and how that ties to Kyle and how we collaborate daily. I would say emails are just flying back and forth daily between him and I, making sure we're hitting our budget and things are on track. So as a project manager, we're going out and we're trying to find trades and vendors, and we have a budget. We have a line item budget of what we're expecting these trades to come in at with the scope of project. That takes many emails, many phone conversations to make sure we're on track and we're getting the most for our dollar amount. Once we sign those individuals up, we usually have a contract. I'll write a contract for the amount of the scope of work. I'll upload it into our software, Buildertrend, which is a software that we're currently using.
Yep.
Which we love. It's a great tool. So we load it into Buildertrend, and that really is then put it into Kyle's court. He knows that the job or the project now has that line item listed to that particular job, and we can start drawing money on that particular contract. So as the work continues to go on, our vendors will issue us invoices. You got to have an invoice with an invoice number. There are many times that we do not get that. We just get screenshots of like, hey, pay me money. And we're like, nah, can't happen that way. The banks don't like to see that. So we need to see actual invoice numbers so we can tie it to something. We'll get an invoice, and I'll review it, of course, and then once it's good to go, I kind of send a message to Kyle through email. Hey, this is good to apply to whatever contract. And that's kind of how, just a quick overview of how we track what's going on in our contracts through that process. Now, the tricky thing, Kyle, I would say is change orders,
Yes. Change orders are obviously not something that you always want to see, because when we have our budget set in stone, we usually try to rein in all of our subs to make sure that we're not seeing a lot of change orders or unnecessary change orders, really. And that's really Cameron's forte and what he does, and just goes through it with the site supers, just making sure that when we do have those change orders hit us, that they're for a specific reason, or that they're actually okay to...
and they're not outrageous.
Yeah, they're not outrageous,
whoa. This was not agreed upon. So that's really just doing your due diligence when you're writing your scope of work to make sure you're getting everything possible. You're talking to your site supers and making sure we're encompassing everything that we can think of or possibly think of. We understand change orders are going to happen. We don't like to see them, but we understand that's just a part of it. Like, hey, we missed this little thing on this wall.
Yeah.
It's going to come down. So really, we like to see our site supers initiating that change order with the sub, because they're on site. They kind of know hand in hand what's going on. They'll initiate it. They'll run it up the flagpole to me to make sure everything's all right. Copacetic, as you would say. And I usually give the authorization, like, hey, this works for us, or this doesn't work, or can we try to add this into someone else's scope of work down the line, bill it out that way. Just the little tricks that we do to try to stay on budget, because that budget is set in stone, like you said. It is one of our most important things that we try to keep track of, and we do it very well because of Kyle and the seat that he is in. I will tell you, he's a spreadsheet master. Can you just talk about some of the spreadsheets that you have made over the past, I would say, almost 3 or 4 months that have made our life so much easier working together?
Well, I think it's a community effort. I always joke with all the Elm guys about it, but it seems like sometimes you create something that's so valuable that it's just like, man, why didn't I think of this so much sooner? And so I think, like, as the Elm team has just honestly gotten stronger, and we've had more employees, like we mentioned, we doubled in size from last year, that it's just become so easy to have those meetings and to really think through all the processes and create, like I said, like you said, spreadsheets. And so we have a job costing budget spreadsheet. We have a thing we call a squeaky wheel spreadsheet, which is basically just showing all the open invoices that we have to specific subs, how much we still owe them, how much they're basically it's job completion percentage for the specific subs. So we know how much we do owe them on a month-to-month basis when we're doing our draw process. And just a couple other spreadsheets like that just kind of help hone in the budget so that when Cameron does approve stuff, he sends the emails to the accounting team, which is me, and then I can process those into Buildertrend, our construction software, and then we go from there.
Yeah, because, there was a point where actually Kyle and I were kind of doing the same job, PMing and doing the finances just for specific projects. And then we kind of broke up and said, okay, let's just individualize this. Let's just have Kyle work on the finance and Cameron will do the PM side. So Kyle, when he gets invoices, because we have a lot of email accounts sometimes that people are sending emails to and invoices to. Kyle's he's not tracking the project. So he'll get invoices like, hey, is this something I need to pay for? So we kind of switched that up to where I'm now getting all the invoices because I got the pulse on the project. I can talk to the supers, understand what work is going on out there, what invoice need to be paid. Like, did they actually complete the work to the percentage that they're at? And then I send that over to Kyle, and that's how we kind of keep the pulse on it because he's in the blind. He doesn't know what's going on really with any other projects. He just knows that we're spending money, and I guess that's the only thing the finance guy really needs to know. Is we're spending money.
Yep.
And then every Wednesday, I would say we have a powwow with the Elm team here, and we sit down and we go over the finances. We look at what's another big tool that we use besides Buildertrend just to track everything.
Well, obviously, you have QuickBooks, and that's the other. Obviously, that's the big accounting software that we have, and Buildertrend is actually integrated with QuickBooks, which works out perfectly. Like Cameron said, on Wednesdays we usually have a powwow of who we're paying, try to see who we need to pay, who we need to get some funds to for them to either continue on a job or if there's some material costs and such. But yes, we have that powwow, and also our Elm Level 10 meeting on Wednesdays as well, and
And those are very productive meetings because obviously we're getting our vendors paid. All right, so Buildertrend, obviously that was something that we took a long time researching and trying different softwares, and luckily was integrated into QuickBooks, and that kind of made our life and the bank draw process a lot easier. The bank draw process is a key component in what we do at Elm Builders just because our invoices are net 30, so we need to make sure we're constantly having these invoices done and these bank draws done, so we can have money to pay our vendors.
Yeah.
I would say, well, to start with, step one is usually just making sure we're getting invoices. Our trades are sometimes great at sending invoices. Other times you got to request them. Just depends on, how big their contract is, how big their scope of work is. You just got to constantly remind them. After those invoices come in, I usually approve them, and then I send them to Kyle, and Kyle takes it from there. And what do you do with them?
Yeah, so like Cameron said, sometimes it's hard to get subs to actually send us invoices or invoices with invoice numbers. Yeah. And the big reason for that, I know that it can sound a little stingy, but you always want to have a paper trail of what you're doing. So that later down the line, and it always is later down the line when you're 6-7 months into a project, and you go, hey, hold on a minute, wait a minute, didn't we pay them this specific thing for this thing that the sub did? And there's really no tangible evidence as to if you paid them and you end up either double paying or you end up arguing with the sub and ruining a relationship. So the best thing I would say the best case scenario is to just get tangible evidence as to them submitting an invoice or a receipt. And like I said, it may sound stingy, and I'm kind of stingy about it, but it just makes it better down the line. Once they're approved, Cameron approves them. He sends them to the accounting email or inbox where I can then I sort through them still just to make sure that there's nothing that slipped through the cracks. Sometimes subs will send them directly to me on accident and so on and so forth. But once they're sent from Cameron, I know that they've been approved. Usually Cameron describes where they go, what PO, what purchase order they're associated with, or what contract they're associated with, what project they're associated with, and then also a cost code, because Cameron does have a much better pulse on, where we've got money in a budget. I can see it in our construction software, but he just has a much better pulse as to where we need that money. And so once that happens, I enter in the invoices and receipts, and usually about, I would say, the 10th of every month, we go through and I start a mass collection of receipts and invoices. Buildertrend, fortunately, doesn't allow you to take invoices and receipts from previous draws that you do, or owner invoices on Buildertrend. If any of you are on Buildertrend at all, it's the owner invoices. It doesn't allow you to take any previous invoices or receipts. So there's kind of that guideline there, so I don't have to worry too much about that. But again, it's all super granular when I'm looking at it, because things can kind of, Ryan, our director of construction, he says it perfectly every time. He just says it as spider webs all over the place. Mm-hmm. If something doesn't get done specifically right, then it can just spider web and add this effect. You may not see it now, but you will see it later, and then you end up kicking yourself in the back of the head really later. When you're having to undo and redo stuff and so on and so forth. So I start this mass collection of invoices and receipts, input them into Buildertrend's owner invoice section, make sure everything is kosher, make sure everything's okay. And then there's a couple different processes that the bank requires. They require us to fill out a draw sheet, which basically just has all of the cost codes put onto a mass sheet. So the bank can monitor the percentage of job completion per cost code or per line item. So I fill out what the bank requires from me. I'll submit that owner invoice or release it from Buildertrend, and that's integrated into QuickBooks. So that will pass on to QuickBooks, make sure everything is good there, constant checks and balances just to make sure everything or nothing goes awry. And then we'll usually upload some project photos from the job as well, so that the bank can see usually their progress photos of some material that's on the job, specific things that correlate to the invoices and receipts that were sent that month, just so everybody's on the same page about it. And then I will also download all the receipts and invoices themselves and send those to the bank as well. Just, again, so that there's no... We try to make it so there's no questions, because if there's questions, then there's more time. Yeah. And that's really the biggest thing for us is time. Time is of the essence when we're trying to pay subs and we're trying to get these jobs done in a timely manner. And so we take that very seriously. Like I said, it almost could come across as a little stingy, but I just think that just allows us to submit for these draws so much faster. And
yeah. And after that usually is one of Kyle's nifty creations, a reallocation sheet that gets sent back over to me. I take it from there, and this is where we have maybe overspent in one area, and I know I can take away from asphalt or something. We'll reallocate some money around. That way we know the next time we reset our budget or revise our budget in Buildertrend, everything is up to date, and all the money is where it needs to be at the current point. There's one more sheet that you send to me, though. What is it?
It's mostly just either a squeaky wheel sheet or the draw sheet is really one of the is the biggest thing, and the I forget what we call that sheet, the sheet with the budget reallocations on it. And that's just again, so everybody's on the same page. I think that's the biggest thing. Everybody's on the same page. There's no questions. Questions make time. So I think that, we're constantly learning. And like I said before, when you come up with some spreadsheet ideas or you come up with an idea of a better way to do something, you're just like, man, why didn't I think of that before? But I just think when you go through the processes over and over and over again, you begin to really feel out what would be better.
Yeah. Because when I started here like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, the bank process was, how long would you say?
It was taking a while. to say the least. Yes, it was taking a while. We have definitely improved upon that time, just with everybody just coming in and giving me their ideas. Some people backing out of the draw process, that we weren't double dipping in specific things. People owning specific jobs, I think, has really cut down on time. And then it's way different than it was even when Cameron first started here, and Absolutely. That's just a testament to how good this team is at problem solving and figuring things out for the better, and not just kind of sitting in our own ways.
So after that lengthy bank draw process, we have a good idea of what we spent on the project, what we have left to spend, and what else is going to happen in the future. So we really have this forecasting sheet that Ryan has come up with that we really dive into deep at this point. We have usually weekly meetings with every project, and this is where we talk about, hey, what's coming down the pipeline? What do we still need to have a contract for? Who's missing? And then what change orders may happen. So the way we like to do it here is if it's a small change order under a certain dollar amount, the site super is responsible for it. They have to give the okay. They have to give their blessing and say, hey, because I'm going to be asking them later on when I see this bill come across, like, hey, what is this change order for? I've had this budgeted. Now it's this amount. What happened here? Where did we miss? Where did we miss the mark? For larger change orders, obviously that will be when me and the site super talk. We'll talk to the trade, try to work out a good number for both of us that we're satisfied with. But these are the things that we're inputting into these variances that we see coming down the line. That way we're trying to forecast the best accurate budget we possibly can. Just that way we're not sitting there towards the end of the project and going, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What happened to our budget?
Yeah.
So these things they help us. I mean, these are just tools that, it's a simple Excel spreadsheet, but a lot of time went into getting this to be perfect to where if you're putting a number down, it's showing up red or yellow and really giving you an idea of how much money you have left to spend and what's left in the bank for us at the end.
I agree. And like Cameron said, he said it perfectly. It's just, it can really get away from you. I think that's the biggest theme here is stuff can just get away from you. If you're not really doing things the correct way or the really tight way, stuff can just sail away and you don't even realize it until you're wind up at the end of the job, like Cameron said, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like where did our budget even go?
Yeah. A lot of these change orders are like verbal agreements. They're just like between the site super and myself. So there's nothing really on paper until you get that invoice. You're like, what? I did not know I was agreeing to that much amount.
Yes.
So it's just one of those things that it's hard to track that we definitely try to do our best tracking and forecasting. It's usually some type of dollar percentage. Like, okay, we know these guys are going to be X amount % over. They typically are. It's just tracking good history and stuff like that. And then you even have that one great spreadsheet at the end of projects that we know how much we spent per square foot on most of our cost codes.
Yeah. So it's just a kind of a master spreadsheet, just as kind of a cost averages spreadsheet. And Carson is actually working on that as well with us. Shout out to him because he's a spreadsheet master as well, yes. But that's just a way that we can even further kind of project and just know what our numbers are going to look like even before we get into the construction process and just educating ourselves and like what the best practices are. Yeah,
those numbers really shore up us. So when we go out there and look at our next project, we go, okay, hey, these were typically $4 a square foot. That's market average or whatever it may be. Where are we hitting on that line? And really helps us forecast for the next project that we take on here at Elm Builders. So with these amazing tools and spreadsheets, especially with this cost average spreadsheet, we have been lucky enough to come in under budget of our last 3 projects. And that has helped out tremendously just here at Elm to even help us staff up to get us to the point where now we're not waiting for bank draws as much. We're not leaning on them as much because now we actually do have the money in the bank to pay our vendors on time and within reason. All these tools have just been a great a learning. There's definitely have to been some learning challenges, but as we keep getting better and better and do more projects, these things have made it so much easier for us. Not only is Kyle a whiz at making all these fancy spreadsheets to make our life easier on the finance side, he also deals with our insurance. So let's talk about insurance, Kyle.
Yeah, so I keep track and make sure that all of our commercial insurance is A, up to date, and B, that we are adequately insured for the specific projects that we have underway. That was something that I was kind of tasked with in the beginning when I was first hired here at Nomad, and something that hasn't gone away from me thus far. And so that's just really just me just making sure I'm on top of my game when it comes to when we have projects in the pipeline, just making sure I'm automatically seeking agencies, brokers out, making sure that the price is the best price that we can get, and making sure ultimately that it fulfills the bank's needs, because that's kind of the biggest thing. When we get lending, sometimes the banks have requirements for what they want insured, how they want to insure it, deductible levels, and so on and so forth. So
nice. Well, that is another episode of Elm Elaborates. Thank you so much, Kyle, for being here. I know we took some valuable time because we have a bank draw coming up.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.